No, I'm saying like, okay, will you get no? I know it's illegal. I signed the NDA. You can't.
I know it's hot. I know it's really hot. But how are we doing?
I'll take
it. So hi everyone. Welcome to Lectures on Tap. My name is Amna, and I'll be your MC tonight. We have a really, really special, spiritual, exciting lecture for you tonight. And to get into the vibe, the energy, the space of what this lecture can feel like for us, I was hoping we could do an exercise together. And everyone can feel free to however you'll do it. But I was hoping we could all close our eyes. And if you guys would like to travel to a place that feels sacred for you, just sitting in this room as we close our eyes, what space are you in? What colors are you seeing? Or are there any sounds that are coming to you? In this sacred place, is there a person that you're with? Do you feel like your breathing is a little different? What does it mean to be in a sacred space? Let's just sit with that for a second. And as we slowly open our eyes, I'd love to share with you guys what my sacred space is. It's actually a waterfall in Puerto Rico. The sounds that I hear are of a waterfall, just like, just falling down, and it's very green and blue for me. Would anyone want to share what their sacred space was like in these moments? Zach?
Sorry. What I imagine is lots of natural light coming into a building. So like, I imagine stained glass and all of this different colored light coming into this one space that's practically silent. It's just deep breathing and calm, and my eyes are closed. I'm just in a very, honestly, like my mind's almost empty, right? And like I'm not thinking about anything, but at the same time I'm thinking about everything in a space where I'm just present. Yeah.
I saw a hand here. Did you hear any sounds? Anyone else want to share? Yeah.
I was just thinking of like a forest glade. There's like a pool. There's like a very clear crystal of water. And when you asked if anybody was there, I said nobody there, just the trees.
I think also living in a concrete jungle, we're just like no people necessary. I think I was just very. Can we do like two more maybe? Yes.
For me, I think I'm the opposite.
Oh yeah. Like to be present around other people. Yeah.
I thought about my grandmother's house in India.
Where in the United States?
Yeah. So I thought of all the like background noise of cars, people talking, and
I love that. Let's do one more. I'm loving these answers. Anyone else? We got the middle crowd. We got the bar. Anywhere on the tops? I'll get Diana. Let's go, Diana.
I envision like a secluded beach, where you're like encaged with mountains around you. I maybe with someone, who knows? Depends how sassy I feel. I hear the wind and the crash of the waves, and my feet keep rubbing in the sand.
I love that.
Sitting
I
on a
love how
towel.
like
I don't like chairs, just a towel.
yeah. I love how for so many of us like nature was a big part of what felt sacred, right? So tonight's lecture is Psychiatrist Explains Why Your Brain Craves the Sacred. Tonight we are in for a treat with our speaker of the night, Dr. Mena Merhon. He's actually my favorite, so there might be favoritism happening here. There's no other speakers, so I can't.
Merhon?
Yeah. So Dr. Merhon is a board
Merhon
certified
means
psychiatrist,
likable.
sports psychiatry expert, and assistant professor of clinical psychiatry at Columbia University Medical Center. Dr. Merham has also worked with NBA and NFL athletes, blending science, practical strategies, and humor to help them achieve peak performance. The humor is one of my favorite parts because it's a New Yorker humor. Whether he's coaching high performers or sharing insights with audiences like ourselves tonight, Dr. Merham is passionate about helping people unlock their greatness. So without further ado, let's give a warm welcome to tonight's lecturer, Dr. Mena Merham.
Thank you so much. What a beautiful introduction and a beautiful, like setting of. Oh, thank you so much. Just one round of applause for Amna, Zach, Diana, the best staff of Lectures on Tap in the business, and welcome to you guys. Welcome to what I think is the coolest thing possibly that happens in New York City on a Tuesday night, arguably in this side of the hemisphere. And I wanted to share with you like my sacred space in this experience. When as we were warming up, I was like, man, I just wanted to be like, you want to do these, right? A little finger snack and stuff. It took me to a place, a sacred tropical place called the Gin Mill. I'm surrounded by strangers in New York, and I'm like umming, and we're talking about sacred spiritual things. So the reason I say that, I'm half joking but half serious, because even though sometimes we think about tropical, amazing, stained glass, somewhere different, somewhere far, believe it or not, we're in a sacred space right here. And I'm going to try to share with you why that is. So this is our topic, why our brain craves this sacred space, sacred experience, sacred understanding of something. And, for a while in the mental health world, we spent a couple of decades trying to convince the rest of medicine that like emotions are a real thing. And the brain connects to the rest of your body. We're like, guys, it's up here, but it also connects to your stomach. And the medicine finally came around like, yes, you're right, I guess. If you had to bully me into it, we agree. We're now crossing into a new frontier over the past couple of decades of data about the spiritual side of your brain, or the sacred part of your brain, that I'm not going to share with you only what I think, my opinion, my perspective, or things I've written or published on, but more so where the data leads us. One of our big questions that we want to share and understand and agree on today, is this even worth it? Is it worth my time coming here on Tuesday? I could have been somewhere else. I could have been picking up a couple of beers in another bar where there isn't somebody with a mic talking at me. I'm going to argue and show you why this is one of the best investments that you can make in your own development. So I write on the side for an outlet called Forbes, and that's just a humble brag. So that was just, it's no big deal. I'm just a writer. So, but one of the things they asked me to write about is like, what is the emotional, psychological, and spiritual components that contribute to your career advancement? And I argue that this is one of them. Not only on the positive is this worth it, but also, did you know there's a risk involved? We've got EKGs here. I'm a psychiatrist, so I have no idea what these mean. Anybody here in healthcare and medicine? Anybody here can interpret this? This is no, I'm just kidding. Put you on. This is July 1st, by the way. So, does anyone know what July 1st is in healthcare? It's when folks who have been training to be doctors for a while begin medical training, and if we get sick, God help us, but it's going to be fine for all of us. That's the stigma of the rumor, but the reality is wonderful things happen on July 1st. The reason I say this to you, let me give you an example. So I ruined my own joke. But I work in an emergency room sometimes. And I walked into the emergency room and I thought, what's going on with this young 24-year-old young woman? And she said, I'm here. I've been really sad. I've been really down. And I feel something terrible. I said, what do you feel? She said, I feel this. I feel that God hates me. I thought, man, that's an aggressive thing to feel. You just woke up in the morning and you feel God hates you. And I said, what happened? Right? Because I hear some things sometimes. Oh, like, did you kill somebody? Do I got to report this to the police? Not that I would, HIPAA. But I just need to know how much danger am I in. So she said, no, Dr. Mina, let me tell you, God hates me because I'm fat. I said, not the F word. Not the F-bomb on a Monday morning. And ugly. I said, God hates you because you are fat and ugly. Your words, not mine. I didn't say that. But I didn't want to be, you know what I mean? I don't want to be like culturally insensitive. Like maybe this is a religious, spiritual understanding that I'm not familiar with. I've studied world religions on some level sometimes, but like, I was like, is this like, do other people think this too in your neck of the woods? She was like, I was waiting for something exotic to be like, oh, I came from somewhere and that's, God hates all ugly fat people. And she was like, no, I'm Catholic. I was like, oh, I know we got a new pope from Chicago, but like, he does not think though, that, right? Is that a Catholic teaching? Is that a Catholic belief? She was like, no, that's not. That's just what I think. Because I was trying to understand, like, do you think like these guys are the only ones going to heaven? Is heaven like a Bezos wedding? Is that like what, is that pretty much Venice? Is that what like our understanding is of it? She said, no, it's not that. I don't believe that, or rather, that's not my spiritual truth, my spiritual understanding. But it's just what I feel at the time. And I'm walking around with this spiritual understanding day in and day out. And I wondered, and let me ask you, do you think there's a risk to feeling this day in and day out?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm going to come back to this slide for a second. You know how big of a risk it is? 19 to 28% higher risk of mortality or death. Last time I checked in medicine, higher risk of death, not good. Even on July 1st when residents coming in. And if there's something that you can do, like this was a study, and they looked at this in this prospective study of 595 hospitalized people who believed either God was punishing them, God had abandoned them, didn't love them, didn't have the power to help them, or that their spiritual community deserted them. I was astounded by this study, and many, many others like it, because I realized when I speak to patients day in and day out, they experience this, like let me put it to you this way. Have you ever had a horrible boss? Ever seen this movie, Horrible Bosses 1 and 2? Shout out to these three guys are hilarious in this movie, okay? Let me give you a side nugget. Anybody here work at all? Well, the economy's hard and stuff, right? But just, let's say you're getting a new job and you're weighing your options. You're weighing your PTO, you're weighing how much your bonus is, what your benefit is, da-da-da-da. According to data, what would be your number one predictor of your job satisfaction? What do you think it would be? Colleagues? Work-life balance? Manager? Is it how much time off you have? Is it how much money you make? I mean, it doesn't hurt. I mean, like if it's like $1 million and $20, I'm going to be a little happier. But the data said all things being relatively equal, your boss actually, your relationship with your boss, are you guys bosses? But if you called it, if someone's a manager or boss, that was the number one predictor of job satisfaction. Imagine if it's not your boss, but you believe in some omniscient, omnipotent, powerful being in the world, that every day you wake up and he's coming for you. What kind of pressure is that? What kind of difficulty is that walking around with? And then sometimes, what that patient told me, what that wonderful young woman told me, she said, we talked a little bit about the sacred, because also side nugget, it is actually part of standard of care for us in healthcare to understand a person's spiritual or sacred understanding of themselves. So when we discussed a little bit of the sacred, she just said to me, I just can't see that in myself. I can't see a sacred part of me. That's why I want to go back to a quick exercise. I know Amna already had us walk through some exercises. Can I get 2 volunteers? We can skip it if we don't want to. My man is one. Okay, that's one. We got 1 female volunteer. Yes. Come on up. Yeah. Oh, you're coming. Oh, she's like, never mind. I changed my mind. Oh, you want up here? All right, come on. We just need 2. You can bring a drink, yeah. What's your name? Where are you from?
Nisha. I'm from Jersey City.
Jersey City. Welcome, Jersey City. My man, what's your name? Where are you from?
Talal, I'm from Kuwait.
From Kuwait? Oh, that's a long way.
That's a long way.
It's a little further than Jersey City. So what I'm going to have you do, it's going to be also a little bit of a spiritual exercise. So we're going to start with our eyes closed.
Okay.
Okay? Don't worry, it's not going to be weird.
Only me or the whole room?
Just both of you guys. And then they're going to watch you and point and stuff. It's going to be weird. So we're going to close our eyes for a quick second. Last time I did this with two dudes, it went differently, but I think you guys are nicer. So what I'm going to do, in a second, I'm going to show you guys I'm going to show you something that is sacred, valued, cherished, and loved. And I want you to describe it for me. Is that okay? You ready take a deep breath? Ready to describe what you're about to see? Okay. Open your eyes. You're going to turn. Can you both open your eyes? Turn toward each other. Sacred, valued, cherished. We'll add loved as well. For the next 60 seconds, I want you to just make eye contact. Don't be weird. You got to have that caveat for every dude in New York City. Don't be weird. Okay, we're going to do for 60 seconds. And as he's like, still, I got you. Is that okay? I should have gotten permission before I got over here. For the next 60 seconds, we're going to just make eye contact softly and think about finding the sacred, the cherished, the loved in the person in front of you. And I want you to observe that person for the next, which will feel like an eternity. 60 seconds in New York is like 6 years everywhere else. For a New York minute. Ready? Go. Don't fight. And I invite you guys to do the same as you're looking at them. Now they're friends. It's a whole different ball. If he wasn't married, this would be Lectures on Tap Tinder, but this is... Tonight is brought to you by Hinge. Just kidding. No sponsors. And time. All right, look this way for a quick second. Round of applause first for them for participating in a weird New York exercise. If you notice, oftentimes we're very good at small talk in New York, right? You look past somebody, or you say, "How you doing?" "I don't care. I'm gonna go. I got a subway to catch." Right? How did those few seconds change the way that you are looking at the person in front of you?
How did what? Something?
I'm gonna ask you first. How did those few seconds of eye contact, how did that first make you feel?
Slightly uncomfortable,
Okay, I like it.
but that was initial.
Yeah.
And then after like a little bit, it made me actually at ease.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that. How about you, my man? How did you feel?
I would agree. Slightly vulnerable, but I think that it depends on the person to person. So then it became extremely easy. And then once it flowed, it flowed. So.
Very good, very good. Round of applause for them one more time. You guys can have a seat. Have a seat. Thank you so much.
You didn't ask us what it was, though.
What it was?
Yeah.
I'll ask again. Don't worry.
There was 4 words.
Oh, there were 4. You guys were talking and stuff. This is the remix of the exercise that's coming next week's lecture. Why did we do that? Sometimes, reference here, Mirror, Mirror on the Wall, right? This is an old Disney movie. Oftentimes, just the exercise of us finding the sacred in another person. There's one writer that I really like who said the most sacred thing you can possibly experience in this world is your neighbor, is the person you walk across from. And we see a lot of people, right? As we train our brain to look for the sacred in another person, and the reason eye contact with the neuroscience behind this is, it allows us softly, not weirdly, even though it's uncomfortable for us, because, and the reason I said 2 dudes would usually fight in this situation is because we just feel threatened. We're like, "Why are you looking at me? What?" But if we allow ourselves, even in a friendly conversation, to look into another person, to see them for where they are, and see that they are somebody who is loved, cherished, valued, sometimes that helps us make that same connection. Because as that young lady told me, her mirror was distorted. Her mirror had a difficult time finding that value and sanctity in her own self. So the first thing, if I don't get you to be convinced that this is important by anything else, it's avoiding the risk factor, because we don't want the horrible losses. But, we're here, Lectures on Tap, we're all positive, baby. We're all about the goods. What if this works well? In the best case scenario, and I activate my sacred brain, my spirituality's on 100, we're going to look at the summary. This is how you get your money's worth in 30 minutes of 3,000 studies. from the data. You're like, man, that's some AI value right there. Okay? ChatGPT, eat up. Okay? Here's what it'll tell you. You have lower rates of substance use, better academic performance, higher life satisfaction, stronger resilience. This is according a colleague of mine who I'm going to reference a couple times, by the way. Her name's Lisa Miller. I'm going to show you her book at the end. She's amazing over at Columbia, and she published studies that were reviewing all of this data. Okay, that sounds pretty awesome. And she also saw that the sacred actually protects my brain. You know, we're at an age now where we're finding, is there a supplement I can take? Is there a medicine I can take? Is it like in the wings? How do I protect my brain? What's a way that I can do that? This might be hard to see, but this is one of the studies that summarize a whole bunch of other stuff. And it's nice that we have multiple screens, so wherever you are, I'm going to point at you a couple of them. Things like well-being, meaning, purpose, hope, optimism, and the positive correlation with these studies. Things like depression, anxiety, suicide, the positive or preventative cause with this, and most importantly, there I show you on the bottom, cardiovascular disease. A cardiologist of mine was telling me about people dying from a broken heart. I said, "Aw, is that real? Anybody? People can verify? All right, cool. If you say so, I'm just a shrink. What do I know?" So this is to say there was a compelling body of data about this, and that the sacred brain, literally, these spiritual practices that we're going to talk about here for a second. The reason I nerd out with you for a moment in the beginning here is that the same way that exercise, like the more you work out, the more you build this muscle, there is a spiritual and sacred component to your neuroanatomy. That the more you work on it, the healthier and more resilient your brain becomes. And we see this now in studies that have done fMRIs to show blood flow in the brain, areas like in the frontal lobe in particular, and how some activity is decreased in the amygdala and the brain's fear center, basically the panic button. All of that in terms of unlocking the sacred brain. If you could bottle up all of these, we love Ozempic, we love, Wegovy, all of these things, right? We're here for, all, again, the Bezos wedding, all those people that, like, congrats to them for just really taking shots at celebrities today for some reason. The point is, if this was all a pill, we would take it. If this was something that we can bottle up in an evening, we would be all over it, right? Here is the best news of this, is that this is something that we are already wired for, that the brain, the sacred brain, is already available to us in this sense. Spirituality, or the spiritual component of our brain, is not a belief. You know how some people will say, well, I am spiritual, or I am not spiritual. That would be sort of like saying I am biological. You know, me, I'm a very biological person. It's like, what do you mean? Are you like an alien or something? It's like, no, like we are, what we're seeing now from the data, it's not a belief, it's a biological trait. And only a third of it is somewhat innate in terms of how you were born or how you were, your ancestry.com. Most of it is something that is not genetic, but is something that you can cultivate. And these imaging studies, again, I don't want to nerd out too much. I'm going to go past the nerdy in a second, that show us that the brain, the analogy here is this. Let me put it this way. It'll come. Here, this. Okay? Have you ever seen, this trend of people like raw dogging life? You ever been on like a flight to Australia or a flight to LA or something, and you have one person who's like, no Wi-Fi, no water, no food, no, it's like, I'm just straight safety instructions to the head for 7 hours, right? Are you guys one of those people? It's okay if you are. I'm not judging you. Just don't sit next to me on the plane because that's scary. Okay, if I'm seeing you like reading a book, cool. If you're just raw dogging it, it's different. The brain, or have you ever had this? Have you ever had the experience of being in a foreign country and your phone has this devastating situation of not having Wi-Fi? It's tragic. It's like one of the top 5 worst things that can happen to you in your life. Imagine if your brain is like Wi-Fi capable, but you just turn it off. If your brain is like, when you buy an iPad or a watch or any of these things, then they're cellular enabled. They have the capacity. The analogy in a lot of the data is that the brain now is closer to these old school things that we call radios, right? They can transmit or pick up a signal They can be a conduit, not only a static thing. We used to think, as we were trying to be ultra biological, is the brain is just a summary of a bunch of little chemicals. And this chemical makes you feel happy, this chemical makes you feel sad, this chemical makes you feel gassy, and that's the end of it. The gassy is very important. But what we're seeing now is we're beyond that. We're seeing now this part, is that the drive for meaning, purpose, connection is actually as natural as hunger or love. Hopefully I've convinced you with that so far. We want to turn on the Wi-Fi.
Vina, can you go back to the other slide?
This one?
Other one.
The,
Yeah, everyone was like,
oh, sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Feel free to take photos of the slides. They are just copyrighted. I will sue you individually. My attorney's on speed dial. It's the third guy in the front. Get him. We're wired for this. And this is good news, right? If I tell you it's something, you know when you buy something and it's like, oh, you didn't buy the attached package to be able to activate the service. You're like, ah. But you don't have to buy anything new here. We're already hardwired for this Wi-Fi. Dr. Miller again puts it in this way in her book, really beautiful book, comparing sort of the awakened version of your brain, which is spiritually, sacredly in tune, versus the achieving. Everybody in New York has a high achieving brain because we're running 1,000 miles an hour trying to crush 1,000 things, do a meeting and meet somebody and have children and conquer the world. It's like, bro, it's 3 p.m. Just take a breath. This achieving, this task-focused, control, problem-solving, which is, again, it's not bad. It just gets exhausting. That relies on only logic, planning. There's a bit of an isolated, self-reliant nature of it, which, again, is exhausting. Versus there is a different kind of meaning-focused, sort of open, receptive, intuitive, that looks at connection, surrender, guidance. It feels a little more interconnected. I'll tell you this, that first saying on the top there, meaning focused, there's a beautiful therapy. There's a wonderful hospital here called Memorial Sloan Kettering. Has ever heard of that hospital? Big time hospital. Their focus is when people are at the end of the rope. When people are at the end of the rope, cancer, they focus on a therapy called meaning focused therapy. And people are much more receptive when they're coming. Have you ever been, I went to a wake last night, that's why I was even more like morbid in my own head this morning. You ever been to a funeral? And you realize how the most important thing, of course, at a funeral is like, look how much money that guy has, huh? That guy's car is fast, bro. No, right? Nobody cares about that at a funeral. There's something about the end of the road that makes us very in tune with the spiritual, the awakened, the meaning-focused part. Jives really well in that hospital, but we hopefully, even if we're struggling with something that's like a life-altering disease, we hopefully don't have to wait until we're at that place to look for meaning, purpose, openness, interconnection. Let's go back for a second. What are we talking about here? What is the sacred? So, fun fact, psychology. Anyone know what the word psychology means? Anybody here a psychologist? All right, good, so I can make stuff up. Going back, the word soul, actually, literally psychology, the word, that's where we get the word psych, is where we get the word soul. And the Greeks were looking at this like life force, basically. My boy Aristotle put it this way, there were three, he is my boy, plant souls, animal souls, intellectual souls, but this concept from antiquity has been that we are not just globules of molecules walking around. There is something sacred to our life force. That's why we adopted the term psychology, the study of the soul, and to be able to remove the soul from mental health, I believe, is a big error on our part, regardless of, again, how you identify religiously or culturally. But I can't really say I'm not spiritual the same way that I can't say I'm not biological. That's a bar for you for next time. A little bit more on this. This is more on the Greek sort of origin. I love this, these sort of Greek words here. Anybody here speak Greek? Okay, cool, I can make stuff like that again. That's half the battle. But basically looking at the intellect, looking at the parts of reason, and my favorite one, if there's one that I'll point out for you, is this word nous. This word nous, or let me put it to you this way. When we're talking about the soul, or the sacred, or the spiritual, you know, if you want to describe somebody who would like kill a puppy, I know, gasp. You know how we would say that person has no soul? But why? I'm sure they have a soul. But there's something around the soul that is like sacred, spiritual, and it reflects how they make decisions. For early writers, one desert writer named Evagrius and Aristotle and others, this nous is like this door, this window of the heart and the soul that helped you perceive, make decisions, helped you understand yourself and other people. And it was beyond just, again, a series of calculations. Let me ask you this. When you think about your own most important decision, let's say when you're applying for work or school or a relationship, I mean, obviously you put it through ChatGPT, but after that, right? You can't decide what to eat before the AI tells you, like, it's got to be the wings, bro. Sometimes I'm in a room with high-performing, high-power, wealthy, fancy people, and I say, where did you make that decision about that merger? Was it the spreadsheet? Because that data, by definition, is retrospective. It looks backwards. It's not really looking forward. It's not really projecting in a way that's... And they all had this thing in common. 80, 90% of them will say, like, no, it was something deeper in here. I'm like, in here, in your, like, duodenum? Like, where it was in your sternum? A gut feeling. What is a gut feeling? And we now, again, learned about, like, the gut-brain connection. But there's something in the gut, these same serotonini that are in the brain, because there's something deep inside us that changes the way that we make decisions. If you have to think about for yourself, in the past year, an important decision that you made, did that come from a place, was that from the calculator? Was that with the thought? Was that in a science-y 1 + 1 = 6? Did you put two tables together, pros and cons, and make a call? Or was there something deep, an intuition, a gut? That is exactly what we're talking about in the sacred brain. And sometimes when it comes to even our health care, I talk to people a lot of times about making healthcare decisions. Fun fact, and I'll ask you this, anybody here been a patient before? Again, don't tell me how, but have you had a person ask you about your spiritual or sacred understanding of the world? Hand raise or a clap. One person, 2 people, 3 people. Hand raise for no. Nobody's ever asked me that question before. Hand raise, like just so I can see. The vast majority of us. You know that data says most people would actually want their healthcare person to understand their spiritual decision making in healthcare. They understand what it means for them to understand life, meaning, value, worth. And the data is pretty consistent that we as doctors stink at it, not because we don't think it's important, even though it's standard of care everywhere, but because we're afraid to talk about it. We don't want to be in a place where we are afraid to talk about it. You know, remember that movie from the 90s? Was it 90s, 2000s? It all blends together because we're old. Maybe just I am, sorry. A movie called Fight Club. Brad Pitt in the heyday before F1. And the number 1 rule of Fight Club was, you don't talk about Fight Club. Sometimes in our space, in sort of, we think that not talking about spirituality is like the number 1 rule of Fight Club. Anyway, how do I get this though? How do I do this? How do I get it? How do I obtain this sort of spiritual brain, spiritual decision making, and get some of these benefits? I love this phrasing that we are human beings, not human doings. This is not going to be a series of activities. This is not going to be check 5 boxes, call me tomorrow, and by then, you spiritual. This is more so about becoming than it is about doing. This is almost impossible for us in New York. Because if you pause for a second, you're getting mugged. Like, I stopped for 3 seconds and I got like, why am I on the floor? I don't know. Where's my phone? Just kidding. We're the safest place in the world. But intentionally saying to myself, I will pause. I'm going to give you a couple of P's. I have like the mind of a 5-year-old, so everything for me has to either rhyme or be alliteration. First one is the first one is pause. Second one is practice. Again, shout out to my man Allen Iverson. Anybody old enough to remember the Allen Iverson practice rant? We're here talking about practice. What are we going to practice? I'm going to give you a very important thing to practice. As we had in the beginning, as we were led through a meditative practice and we were like in the zone, even this idea of connecting with the sacred, being able to speak openly to your higher power, God, however you sort of seek and understand him. Nature immersion, I remember having a patient once say to me, that's what he said too. He said, dispatch, that was on cue. Swarm, team, swarm. I will now be deported, guys. I'm so sorry we have to end the lecture early. ICE is here for me. I am too soon? Too soon? Or just in time? All right. You guys all brought your passports, right? Ain't nobody safe. Okay. Just kidding. Diana's checking passports at the door when we're leaving. Let's look out for each other here, okay? Mina just left. We don't know. We just left. So, but a patient once told me, he said, you know, Mina, I've never seen a sunset. I said, bro, where you from? He said, Brooklyn. I said, I get it, but like, you know what I mean? Like, go outside or something, bro. There is data, I took it out of this slide set, but there's a lot of data about just the spiritual experience. You know, as you guys were reflecting in the beginning, waterfalls and all kinds of cool stuff about being in nature. This is one of the things I love. There's a whole lecture that I give to medical students around this, around gratitude. Because believe it or not, you find, if you're looking for things to believe, if you want to be like, you know, that Yelp commenter who like came to the speakeasy and was like, I can't believe the projector. If you want to look for things to complain about, you will find them. If you want to find things to be grateful for, you will also find them. The practice here, like, I remember I recently was like, you know what? It's hot Mina summer. We're going to get in shape, okay? I signed up for a personal trainer, and I went once. And my man Brad texted me. He's like, hey, man, where are you? His name was Brad. Don't judge me, okay? His name is Brad. He's a 19-year-old guy who was a personal trainer. He said, hey, where are you? I was like, I went once. What do you want? You're still going to collect your check, man. But he's like, no, you got to keep coming back. I was like, oh. I've had a lot of people meditate once. I've had a lot of people pray once. I've had a lot of people gratitude once. I woke up today and I'm very grateful and everything's amazing. But like, what about tomorrow? 5 to 10 minutes is what neuroscience is telling us, because if you want to pave a new pathway in your brain, I used to live in, when I was growing up, I had a road that, you know how New York, one of the staples of New York is construction. That's just what it is to be in New York. So you know when they're paving a new road, what do? They go over it over and over and over again. The thought that you have over and over and over again paves a pathway in your brain. I invite you to pave a pathway with these practices. Can I challenge you a little bit deeper? This is now towards the end of the talk, and we're about to get serious. We're about to get real intimate. There's something in the data. Again, I'm a data guy. I'm a nerd. As I know you can't tell because I'm I'm so funny. That there's something in the data that says that you can decrease your risk of depression by 40%. You can decrease your risk of anxiety by 30%. You can have a better overall mental health outcome, better high positive emotion, decrease rumination, oh my gosh, this is amazing. But we ran out of time. I'm so sorry. We don't have time for that today. Come back next week. No, I'm just kidding. Would you want to know about this practice?
Yes.
Thank you. Oh, that was an emphatic yes. As my boy Snoop once put it, of course he was the origin of this quote. Everybody see this movie? I actually don't know what movie this is, but I just saw it. I just love Snoop, and I think he put it well. He really said, to err is human, to forgive is divine. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the act of forgiveness. I know. I know, everyone came and was like, I just want to do some spiritual practices at home by myself. Don't make me do something with other people. Don't make me, so I'm not talking to that guy. I'm not talking to her after you know what she did to me? I had a patient the other day tell me, my sister, she was a girl, and I only have a sister, but I'm a dude, so we have a different dynamic. Girls and their sisters get along really well, generally speaking, right? But every once in a while, they wanted to kill each other. And she said, she did something unforgivable. I'm like, she's your sister. There's actually there's a band I love called U2. Everybody know U2? You know, remember how they all put their music in our phones? Just assaulted your phone all of a sudden. There's a line I love from Bono who says, home is sometimes where the hurt is. if you want to look for like the deeper wounds sometimes that are making it hard for us to connect spiritually, making it hard for us to have a spiritual, sacred understanding of ourselves. Ooh, don't ask me about my mom. Don't ask me what my dad said that one time. And patients will often tell me, like, Mina, this sounds cute, Snoop, whatever. There's real data about this? This really impacts my spiritual understanding? Well, is there a guide to how I can forgive? Well, yes. There's more. How do we do this according to research? One of the things that a pet peeve for me that I used to hear from mentors is like, do this. I'm like, how? Like, I'll just do it. Like, teach me, man. I'm going to teach you a method backed by research. It's called the REACH method. Anybody ever hear of the REACH method? Oh, awesome. So you can tell me if it's real, okay? I'm going to see if I... The first, and it's a little acronym, the first is to recall the hurt. This step is so important in forgiveness because oftentimes when I'm working with a patient and we're working through spiritual pain and injury, like a real injury. You know, I'm a sports guy, so like I'm keeping tabs on like who tore their Achilles and who got traded, In order to recover from an injury, you gotta first acknowledge that really happened. You can't be out here with a busted knee, be like, that's okay, I forgive the field. My knee's just fine. So many of us can never get to forgiveness because we don't do this part well. We try, all right, man, whatever. That person, block them. We're moving on. That cousin, I'm never seeing that cousin again. That friend, that family member, that coworker, I'm quitting that job, leaving that place. My therapist once told me, she's a very, very insightful lady. She was like, you know, Mina, like wherever you go, there you are. Like, that's what I'm paying you for. I'm like, what do you mean, Susan? And she was making this point that I think is true, is sometimes you cannot outrun spiritual pain. You cannot outrun the things that are wounding you. You must first face them, call them what they are, face straight up, recall the hurt. You know what? That hurt me, that was painful, that sucks. I hate it. Cool? Describe it, how you felt, what it was like, and we're describing it, we're not excusing it. We're not suppressing it, we're not exaggerating it, we're not saying it's more than it was, we're not saying it's less than it was. It was exactly what it was. But don't stay there. Then there's the E, is the empathy. Which is hard because they don't deserve my empathy. I don't deserve it. You know what he did to me? You know what she said? Again, remember I showed you our two friends here, Kuwait and Jersey City. It's just a natural, another day in New York, right? Just like Qatar and Brooklyn are going to meet later. It's going to be... If you can develop an empathy in another person, find the sanctity in that other person, we find it in ourselves, because one of the things, I'll be honest with you, we struggle to empathize with other people, we also struggle to empathize with ourselves. You're going to sit yourself down and be like, psh, beat yourself down sometimes. But if you empathize, if you say, you know what, we're going to try to understand what they might be going through. We're going to try to open up a door of compassion. Even if the act was wrong, and I'll give it to you, I'll grant you this, 100% it was wrong. 100%. It was totally wrong, bad, mean, evil, terrible, awful. There's still room for compassion. You know why that's important? Is because sometimes we don't want to be compassionate with ourselves because we also don't feel like we don't deserve it. If we're really wrong, then I won't give myself compassion. If I'm really bad, then I won't give myself empathy. But this is an invitation for something different. And here's the crux of it. Have you ever given somebody a gift for no reason? Like no strings attached? Even better, have you ever gotten a gift for no reason? Like so much of our gifts, it's Christmas, I'm gonna give you a gift, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like Santa better come through. So much of what we do is transactional. I help you, you help me, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. But it's awesome. Our minds get a little bit blown when we get something that is no strings attached. Altruistic gift of forgiveness, reflecting on the time that you've needed forgiveness. Have you ever messed up? I'll tell you one of the things that I remember in my friend group. When a friend of mine forgave me, where I really messed up with him, I really like blew it totally. And he was like, dude, I know what you did. I caught you. I was like, damn. And I forgive you. I was like, why? You should be mad. You should sue me. I know a good lawyer. You should sue. And it blew my mind. When you see that forgiveness is a gift and not a transaction or a reward, for yourself. Again, this all relates back to you. I've had a lot of patients come back and say to me, I can't forgive myself. Why? I don't deserve it. Forgiveness is not a reward for good behavior. It's a gift. And then you have a commitment, because forgiveness is a choice. One thing I can promise you, I have never met somebody in therapy who has gotten through this life smooth and scotch-free, unhurt by life, unscathed, just like strolling through New York City. Nobody cursed them out once. We all catch strays, man. We all catch it. But the commitment to forgive is saying, today I choose to forgive blankety blank for blank. And this becomes an anchor for my choices, for what I feel. And lastly, you usually hold on to it, because there's going to be a time a week later, you can see a picture on Instagram. Be like, they look happy. How do they look happy after they did this to me? You look, you're just living it up over there on the yacht. You should be crying. But you're going to hold on to it. You're going to say, because it's not for them, right? According to Snoop, this is a divine attribute. I really said according to Snoop. Forgiveness is not a one-time event, but it needs to be reaffirmed. It needs to be a choice that resentment will return, and you got to remind yourself of the commitment. I promise you that resentment will return, but I promise you this has been, by the way, like studied in hospitals, studied in places who are really sick, people who are like struggling, and the results were astounding. I've seen patients walk around with resentment the size of boulders to themselves, to other people, to a higher power, but you have a leg up on them. The other P I got, the police really might be coming, okay? Just dispatch. It's okay if they do. Is partner. And what I mean by that is find a circle of meaning, because this whole spiritual thing that we're talking about, one of the reasons I love Lectures on Top, by the way, is because the audience vibes. You like find your people here. People who want to be on a Tuesday, like learning about random stuff, and spiritual and stuff. Like talk to each other after this thing, you know? This is the kind of vibe that you want to do in real life. Because circle of meaning, partnering up the same way with the gym, the same way with any practice, anything that we want to do. I'm a Seinfeld guy. Anybody else here a Seinfeld, Larry David, right? Yeah, New York. Okay, cool. One clap, but like a bunch of nods. Larry David has this thing of talking about, like, you know, medium talk. So you know how small talk, we say hi to somebody, we just, oh, how you doing? Oh, what do you do? Oh, I don't care. You know what I mean? He talked about like going one level deeper. In a circle of meaning, I invite you to shift what you're talking about with a friend to like, what has moved you recently? What's been on your mind? What's been on your heart? Sharing, sometimes it's service together. I work with a nonprofit organization that just focuses on having athletes serve in the community. And there's a whole other lecture that we give about that. But the point is finding partnership, platonic friendships. It's really hard for us as adults sometimes to have friends, but the partnership piece is really key, because this is not a solo game. So in summary, before I leave you with this here, we're wired for this gift. Anytime that you already have a gift waiting for you, I don't want you to leave home without it. It's like an audience giveaway. And the sacred actually protects your brain. In a time where everything that we hear about is hurting our brain, whether it's what we're eating, oh my God, this food is ultra processed and it's making my brain explode. According to my Instagram feed, I'm gonna die tomorrow, okay? That's just, pray for, I don't know. The sacred unlocks a different kind of decision making for me that I want to be able to have. And we get to do this by our pause, our presence, our practice, and a partner. The resource I wanted to share with you, it's a great book, Dr. Lisa Miller, a friend of mine, The Awakened Brain. I invite you to buy, like, subscribe. I don't know what people do with books these days. You have to like read them, right? It's okay. Feed it through AI and let it summarize it for you. Let's be honest, right? No, it's actually a good book to read with the words. And thank you so much. Thank you for your attention.
You know, you're always amazing. You
Girl.
just, like, deliver.
Thank
So,
you.
We have time for like 5 to 6 questions, so straight away. All right, we already have one.
Thank you so much.
You do get a water break. It's like,
We're ready. We are. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I have a question on your forgiveness part.
Yeah.
I think it really stuck home with me because I've been dealing, with, thinking of whether I should or shouldn't. But what if someone keeps making the same mistake? Is it worth going
Yeah, great question. And it's a distinction between forgiveness is not mutually exclusive with boundaries. You know, let's say I live in New York City. I get hit by a car. Some of y'all seem happy about that. I don't know why. Nobody was like, oh, Mina, we don't want you to die. Okay, I see where the loyalty is in the audience. But if I do that, right, it would be appropriate for me to be like, dude, I get it. It was a tough day. You know what I mean? You didn't mean to do it. You just kind of nicked my shoe. Like, it's cool. And I can forgive that person. But I will look both ways more carefully. I will say, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. Or if, you know what I'm saying? So the idea of setting a boundary is healthy, appropriate, good for the other person as well. Not just good for you. But to say, you know what? Hey, listen, this thing that happened was not cool, not appropriate. I'm not about that. That's not my relationship. That's not how I do things. I acknowledge what this is. I went through the reach, and I want to let you know I forgive you. I forgive you. I really do. From as much as, again, this is a really important point I don't want you to miss. Forgiveness is not an emotion. Because if science tells you to feel feelings, science is dumb, okay, respectfully. Science can tell you to make choices. Science can say, if you make this choice, this will be the outcome. But if I say to you, feel angry, you'd be like, you know what I mean? So that's the thing. It's not an emotion. It's not a feeling. It is a choice. So with that choice, I can make that choice. And then the next healthy choice is now I evaluate the stance of my relationship. Are we in a place where it's a friendship, any kind of two people situation, you know what I mean, is a two-way street. If you are in a place where on your end, you're not able to maintain the boundary that we have, you know, he just keeps kicking me as I'm up here, I'm like, all right, man, we got to have a different relationship. I'm a bob and weave or something. So that's an important part. Don't let the boundary part hold you back from the forgiveness part, because it has, like we said, scientific benefit for you. And to be honest with you, it kind of blows the mind of the other person in some ways if you still maintain a relationship with them. Other question? Yes?
My question is probably a little layered. So
I like it.
I'm thinking about like the Venn diagram of religion and then like atheism or agnosticism,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, and maybe the Venn diagram is spirituality, or the overlap is that. So how do you encourage like atheistic or agnostic patients or clients to kind of like protect themselves from nihilism, but then also how do you teach like your religious clientele to protect themselves from religiosity?
Ooh.
Right? So
You're
it's
smart.
like you've got the risk factors on both sides, and like how do you find the safe space in the middle?
Man, I love that question. Can you do one of these? Are you listening?
I'm a therapist.
You're a therapist, okay. I want to hear you next time. It's such a beautiful question because the answer is that it has to be tailored. This is one of the beautiful things, one of the reasons why sometimes somebody in a lecture will say like, how do I do like whatever in my life? I'm like, okay, here's the caveat. I don't know you. You know, I can't give you medical advice, that kind of thing. But in general, the beautiful thing about therapy of understanding, let's say I'm working with someone in the atheistic sort of experience. We then go through a little bit of definitions. And we say, we're talking about religious practices. Nobody wants to force any of that on you. Nobody wants to say, hey, you should be doing this. What we're looking for are things that are deeply ingrained in your biology, right? Just your own capacity. That doesn't have to be a supernatural being. It's even your personal ability to connect with yourself, to connect with another human being. That's sort of a humanistic element to it that everyone can sort of relate to. But an important caveat to it, for that person as well as, Lisa talks about this in her book too, sometimes people have had negative religious experiences. I don't know if anybody here has ever had negative religious experience. Most of us have it somewhere. And she described this really well. You know, like in the Olympics, there is like the Olympic torch. We would say that the Olympic torch holds a real flame. That flame is real, it's authentic, you know what I mean? Sometimes the person holding that torch may not be worthy of the flame itself, the torch bearer, if you will. So we make a distinction, whether it's somebody coming from a humanistic background or somebody coming from a religious background, is differentiating your own innate, hardwired spiritual capacity with external experiences. for a person who was not a worthy torchbearer, so to speak, or a person in that religious experience who was giving you an impression of something that is negative. And as we do that, as I understand where you're coming from, and if you're at a place where you just are ready to explore the Wi-Fi of your own brain, that's one thing. And on the other side of the spectrum, as you said, the religious folks who are just sometimes don't really see that capacity either, because they're stuck on, if I do these 10 things, then these 10 things will happen. It's like, oh, okay, if that's the magic genie that is your, I'm not making fun of your magical, spiritual experience, but if that's the way you understand religion, that's cool. Can you add to that an exploring element of what does it mean to have the spiritual capacity behind that, so that you're not stuck only in the human doing, but the human being? What does it mean to have sort of a being experience? So it is very nuanced for both people. That's why I love the question. You're right, it's layered and it's nuanced, but that's the beauty of the human experience too. Another question, I thought I saw a hand somewhere. Yes?
I was curious about forgiving someone who's not in your life.
Forgiving someone who's not in your life anymore. That happens too. There's an interesting fact about pain in the brain. They've done some studies on this, and we probably are familiar with this by now, that the way the brain registers pain, sometimes physical pain and emotional pain, perceived pain, imagined pain. Like, I don't have to be standing over you and punching you in the face for your brain to register pain. You can remember something, and it can trigger a part of the brain that's like, ow. Sometimes somebody who's not in your life anymore. This is why, if you notice, all the things in the REACH model did not involve the cooperation of the other person, giving you permission to forgive them. Or here's the big one, them asking you for forgiveness. You don't gotta ask me for nothing. This has nothing to do with you in a sense. This has everything to do with me, my ability to give a gift, my ability to be able to have empathy, compassion, that will be given to you, but it'll also be given to me. So in some ways, we get stuck on folks who are not in our life anymore because we are waiting for them to participate in the forgiveness process. And they won't. They don't want to. They want to hold it off. They want to keep that grudge. We don't want to give them that power. The power is actually all ours in this sense. You can, as we know, right, we can only control the choices that we can make. We don't want to put it for them to validate or have any ability to change our decision making when it comes to forgiveness. And that can be really liberating for us as well.
Can you share some ways someone can?
Yeah, I would say working with patients through it, the biggest thing is not the biggest, but the one that I've seen a lot is like an estranged family member. It was like a father who was there but absent. I was actually doing a podcast with somebody, most incredible story I've ever seen in my life. This guy named Derek Anderson, who was an NBA champion, and his parents just abandoned him when he was 6. He had to fend for himself, and this guy became an NBA player. Really crazy. Check out the link on the, okay? Just a little self-promotion, but bless you. But the part that was cool for him is he decided, he was like, you know what? I'm not going to allow the choices that they make to dictate the rest of my life. And as he worked through it, it allowed him later on to even look to reunite with his mother, reunite with his father before they passed. But it all came back for him to saying, what can I do? What a lot of my patients will do is say, you know what, because of the hurt that happened to me, I'm going to react, and I'm justified on some level. I'm going to be angry, so I'm going to self-soothe, or I'm going to take it out on this, or take it out on that, or do this, or do that. The choices that I'm reacting to a moment from somebody else's decisions to me. What Derek did, and I think is an invitation for all of us, whether or not that person is actively in your life, how much power do you want their mistakes to have over your life? How much do you want their decision making to continue? And I'm not saying this is easy, by the way, right? This sounds like real, you can say it on a mic. But this is why it's good to have somebody walk you through it as well, process that. But it can be powerful and it can be liberating when you take that chain off, where that person's hold on you from 10 years ago no longer has the ability to dictate how you feel. Yes, sir.
Is the forgiveness process supposed to be selfish in nature?
That's a good philosophical question too. I would say this. It's self-preservation on some level, right? And if the A part in it, the altruism, doesn't move us, like, oh, I'm not trying to be Santa Claus, right? I'm just trying to look out for myself. I'm trying to survive out here, man. It's hard in New York. If that moves us, cool. It's good enough, right? Because that's why I started this whole sacred thing with like, is it worth it? Even if what motivates us all here tonight to take one sacred step is just to prevent the bad stuff so that I can survive, run with it. But I think one of the things in the data where that can elevate us a little bit is when we go, there was a really beautiful study in Harvard about human thriving and flourishing, for example. There's actually a really nice book too called Flourish. The pinnacle of human flourishing is not entirely self-seeking, is not entirely selfish. But if we start there, I'm cool with it. You know what? In order for me to feel less pain, I'm going to take this step. What's beautiful though, on a human sort of psychological level, is now I get to be elevated one step further. And I say, you know what? Now I'm looking for building on that, thriving or flourishing in a way that's not only me surviving and self-seeking, but now it becomes of me giving. I don't know why these gazillionaires at some point decide to give up all their wealth and like give to other people. I don't know why people that we look up to, you know, Doctors Without Borders or whatever, why do people give of themselves? Why do we volunteer? Why do we, if we see somebody, like the staff was telling me, they saw somebody hurting over the weekend and they stopped and helped them. Why? It's because, again, we're wired. There's something in us that me being with a person and giving for them is to my benefit. And that begins to unlock when we can do that even emotionally. When we can say, I'm going to forgive, and now part of forgiving is being able to also give. I just made that up. Sounds true though. Yes, ma'am. Bars.
So I remember, and this is from my grandmother, she said, like, I forget, but I don't forget.
Mm-hmm.
And so my question is, how do you know you have truly forgiven?
Deep question too, man. You guys are deep. It's only Tuesday. The question was, how do you know if you've really forgiven? If you forgive but you don't forget, right? Part of forgiveness is that you have to get hit in the head right away afterwards, right? Somebody's got to give you amnesia. No. If we say that by forgive but don't forget, if we mean a healthy boundary, that's good. How do I know I really forgave? I've gone through these rabbit holes with patients for a while. So like, I think I forgave, but I didn't really, and they question themselves. No. It's actually much simpler than that. That's why I'm saying, if you're looking for a feeling, or an emotional reaction, or a response, or a signal in the sky, you have now forgiven, right? Da-da-da, the more you know. It's harder, because how do you measure that? How do you quantify that? But when it's a decision, here's even the better part. Even if I feel the opposite, I am pissed off, and I forgive. Those two can coexist. I still feel the way that I do, and forgiveness is not a shot. Okay, my man's hooking us up with all kinds of shots today. The reason that forgiveness is not a shot, it's a slow pour. And I'm working on it, and I'm doing it, but I have committed to it, and I have chosen, irrespective of how I feel, because I can't manipulate my feelings. I can 100% make choices in spite of my feelings, right? Have you ever felt super hungry, but you were like, I'm not eating right now? Have you ever felt like right now, like I wish this would be over, but you're still listening to the questions? That's the part. Don't rely on our feelings to lead us. We have to let our decisions lead our feelings. Last one?
Yeah, one last.
Last one. No pressure. She's like, here it is. This is the pinnacle of all philosophy.
So a lot of what you talked about today has been about connection as well as, the sacred. And I feel like we're in an era where people are becoming more and more and more isolated to
Yes.
the point, like the Surgeon General has declared loneliness a public health
Yes.
emergency. How do we move forward in this space? How do we connect more with each other aside from what we're doing right now?
Yeah.
But how do we?
I love that question because just in case anyone didn't hear the question, by the way, or the reference, this was Vivek Murthy, the former Surgeon General, shout out to him, who reminded us that loneliness can be like smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Being isolated literally is killing us. So when you see something is like lethal, we react to it as like, hold on a second, I gotta combat this strongly. So that's the first part, is knowing the risk of isolation and saying it's unacceptable, I will not allow myself to be isolated from a choice decision-making standpoint. Because if I hear that like every time I drink water, it's like the equivalent of, years off my life, I'm gonna drink Diet Coke or something, Shout out to Diet Coke. So that's the first part, recognizing the risk involved. And then two, what I walk with patients through is creative connection. In a sense of, you know what, it's hard for me to make friends because I don't have this particular hobby. Let's try different ones. I don't have this particular spiritual group. This is why I mentioned the partner part, is maybe it is going back to your spiritual experience. I had a patient that I'll never forget. He was 50 years old and from like a place that you would not think, but he said, oh, the thing that gives me the most meaning and connection is my Buddhist temple. He's like, I know I'm Dominican, people don't think I should be Buddhist. But like, that's what I do. I was like, respect, you know what I mean? So I mentioned him, and I mentioned this to say, sometimes there is a home for us in our spiritual experience that we can come back to. Sometimes it's things like this. Sometimes it's actively building depth, not quantity, but depth in the relationships that I already have. We might know somebody, and again, everything that we know about each other is nothing. We just know that we went out for drinks that one time. That's why I had him do the weird eye contact thing for 10 seconds, 20 seconds, whatever it was. Taking one step closer. She was like 60. I was counting it. I was dying. Sorry. Well, with that, I'll say the invitation, I think, for us to connect, to find the sacred in each other, in ourselves, and in the divine is something that's available for every single one of us. And I'm glad that you all came here today to experience that we can experience that together. So thank you so much for your attention.
Let's give another round of applause. You guys are amazing. This has been Lectures on Tap. Thank you to Alex for always being so amazing. In the back, there's Diana and Zach. They both are incredible. We actually have experience surveys, so as you guys exit, there'll be a QR code. If you can scan, let us know what you thought so we can provide you better experiences. This has been Lectures on Tap. You guys have been incredible. Literally, loved all your questions. And can't wait to see you at another one. So take care, everyone, and stay cool.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. Thanks for participating, man. Thanks for playing along. Hope you had fun.
That was great. That was great.
Good.
Thank you very much.
Thank
That
you.
was really interesting.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I was wondering, is there anything that's just unforgivable? Like, let's say Natalie Holloway's parents, for example.
Who was that?
She was murdered in Aruba by that Dutch guy. Like,
oh, jeez.
Would they have to forgive? Like,
I don't think, in my perspective, is sort of where the data is. It's not so much that anybody has to do anything.
Right.
But it's more so as they go in their own grief journey, they can choose to feel like this person is a monster, which maybe they are. And they can choose to hold on to that, which they are entitled to.
Right.
But the question will be, what is going to be most healing for them?
So ultimately it comes back to, for me, what's the best thing for me?
Exactly. Because what we just know, it's clear from the data, grudges are not healthy. Even if it's justified. Somebody was a monster.
Yeah.
It's not healthy.
Interesting. So it's like not trying to hold on to negativity in your life.
Yeah, because the more you hold on to it, even though you have the right to.
I've been trying that lately. I
Good.
think it's working. I've experienced some more positivity.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's awesome. That's a beautiful thing. That's a little bit at a time.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Great to meet you. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Awesome. I'm glad you liked it.
I just came back from a music chanting retreat.
Oh, cool.
I feel like a lot of things that you're saying, part of the
Oh, good.
chanting.
Oh, that's beautiful. So it kind of flowed.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful to
I'll
hear.
share some of this to my group.
Please do. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much.
This was so awesome. Do you
Oh,
do
really?
these frequently? 'Cause I
Yeah,
would love
once a
to-
month.
Oh, really? With Lectures on Tap?
Yeah.
Is it the same one? Or?
No, a different lecture every time.
Oh, all right. So if I follow you on Instagram, okay. All right, I'll be there. This was great.
Oh,
This
thank
is
you.
my first Lectures on Tap.
First one? Oh, great.
This is great. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Great to meet you.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for participating. Thanks for playing along.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
I have a question. Do you still work with NBA athletes?
I do.
Yeah. And are you part of the team or you just?
No, I just work with the league on the players union side.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. MBPA. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm a physical therapist. So
Oh,
I work
nice.
with that. I work with NBA athletes.
Oh, no way.
So that's, so I.
Like with a team or through the union?
No, privately.
Private,
So,
amazing.
Yeah, so I'm there quite a bit. I was like, I do have athletes.
Hey.
You had mentioned, I mean, I'm sure you probably look at your.
Yeah. No, we can connect. Let me grab my phone. One second.
Yeah.
One second.